Have you ever noticed how life feels less like a destination you're chasing, and more like a mirror staring back at you? That mirror doesn't care about your prayers, your affirmations, or how badly you think you want something. It reflects only who you are right now, your state of being, your frequency, the silent energy you carry into each moment. This is the essence of manifestation. It isn't about convincing the universe with the right words or the right rituals. It's about who you've become in your heart, in your nervous system, in the quiet rhythm of your breath. For so many of us, the struggle begins when we confuse wanting with being. We recite affirmations with our lips while our body still trembles with doubt. We imagine abundance while our hearts remain clenched in fear. It's like trying to smile at the mirror while your face refuses to soften. The reflection won't change until you do. Manifestation, in its truest sense, is not about asking for more. It's about remembering that you already are more. The quantum field, this ocean of endless potential, does not respond to wishful thoughts. It responds to coherence. When your thoughts, your emotions, and your body begin to sing the same song, think of it like tuning an instrument. If one string is out of tune, the whole song feels uneasy. Your life works the same way. When your mind says, "I am ready," but your body whispers, "I am afraid," the field hears the dissonance and simply reflects it back. But when your inner world settles into harmony, when your breath slows, your heart softens, and gratitude rises without reason, you become a clear signal. You stop trying to pull reality toward you, and instead, you become magnetic. Life begins to move toward you naturally, like rivers that no longer fight their course, but flow effortlessly back to the sea. What's remarkable is that this shift doesn't demand more effort. In fact, effort often takes us further away. The tighter you grip, the more the universe slips through your fingers. True manifestation begins in the moment you release the struggle and allow yourself to simply be. It's the same way a flower blooms, not by forcing each petal open, but by surrendering to the warmth of the sun and the pull of the soil beneath it. In that surrender, beauty becomes inevitable. When you step into this state, you realize that the universe isn't testing you, punishing you, or making you wait for proof. It's reflecting you. It's showing you the story you tell about yourself through your vibration. If you see lack, it's because you're still carrying lack. If you see abundance, it's because you've begun to embody abundance. Nothing in this reflection lies. That's why the question is never, when will it come? The real question is, who am I being in this moment? Because the moment you shift your state, the reflection begins to change. For years I believed I had to do more, read more, pray harder, visualize better. But the truth revealed itself in silence. The more I let go, the more aligned I became. It wasn't about stacking more effort on top of my life. It was about peeling back the layers that kept me from my own essence. Beneath the noise, there is a stillness, subtle, steady, and unshaken. That stillness is your truest frequency. It's the place where you stop asking for miracles and realize you are one. So as you sit with these words, notice your breath. Notice how your body feels when you stop chasing for just a moment. That feeling, the calm, the openness, the quiet trust, that is the frequency the universe has been waiting to respond to. Not your striving, not your struggle, but your being. And when you carry that frequency long enough, life cannot help but reorganize itself around you. Manifestation is not about forcing life to bend to your will. It is about remembering that you are already woven into the fabric of everything you seek. The field isn't keeping score. It's waiting for you to tune into who you truly are. And once you do, the reflection in the mirror no longer looks distant or impossible. It looks familiar. It looks like home. 1. Simple joy as a sign of alignment. There is a quiet kind of wisdom that hides in the ordinary moments of life. Most people miss it. because they're too busy waiting for something grand, something dramatic, something that feels like fireworks in the sky. But life doesn't always speak in explosions. More often, it whispers through the smallest of things: a warm cup of tea in the early morning, the sound of birdsong drifting through the window, or the way a smile unexpectedly lights up a stranger's face. These moments may appear small, but they are not insignificant. They are signals, signposts that you are already moving in harmony with the deeper current of life. We often think alignment must look like miracles: winning the lottery, meeting the perfect partner at the exact right time, or watching all our struggles vanish overnight. And yet, alignment is much more subtle. It is not about the scale of the event, but the quality of the vibration beneath it. Joy, no matter how small, is the language of coherence. It is the body's way of telling you that you are tuned in, that your inner frequency is no longer at war with the natural rhythm of existence. Think of it this way: when a radio is slightly off its station, you hear static, distortion, fragments of sound that never quite settle. But the moment you turn the dial just a little, suddenly the music comes through clear, pure, and effortless. Joy works in the same way. It doesn't need to be overwhelming to be a sign. Even the lightest hum of joy is enough to tell you that you've tuned the dial of your being to match the frequency of life itself. And it's important to notice that joy does not always arrive with reason. Sometimes it sneaks in during an ordinary task: washing dishes, folding clothes, walking slowly through a quiet street. The mind may try to dismiss it, saying, "This is nothing. This can't mean I'm aligned." But the heart knows better. Alignment is not proven by the size of the event, but by the softness of your state. When you feel that subtle ease, that gentle uplift, even in the most mundane activity, you are already living in sync with the field. For those who have lived long enough, who have walked through seasons of grief and disappointment, this truth carries even more weight. We spend years chasing after a happiness that feels distant, believing it must come in some future breakthrough. But eventually, after the exhaustion of chasing, something shifts. We discover that the sacred has always been here, in the steam rising from the cup, in the laughter of children outside, in the sunlight stretching across the floor. The joy we thought was missing was never gone. We had only been too distracted, too tense, to notice it. There is healing in this recognition, because once you stop waiting for life to deliver something big, before you allow yourself to feel joy, you begin to realize joy is not a reward. It's a compass. It points you toward alignment every time it appears. The simplicity of this can feel almost unbelievable, that one smile, one breath of gratitude, one quiet moment of peace is evidence that you are already connected to the larger flow. But that's the paradox of life's deepest truths. They are simple, yet profound. And here's the most powerful part: when you honor the small joys, when you let them expand, instead of brushing them aside, you create a ripple effect. The frequency of joy attracts more of itself. The moment you feel it and allow it, you are no longer chasing alignment. You are living it. And then the so-called big things begin to happen almost on their own. Not because you demanded them, but because joy itself is magnetic. So perhaps the real invitation is this: stop measuring your alignment by the size of your achievements. Measure it by the softness in your chest when you sit quietly, by the way your shoulders release when you take a slow breath, by the lightness that arises when you notice something beautiful in the middle of an ordinary day. That is alignment. That is the universe nodding gently, telling you, yes, you are on the right path. And when you begin to trust these signs, when you stop waiting for thunder and start honoring the whispers, you realize that alignment has been with you all along. It was never hidden, never absent. It was always woven into the simplest joys of your everyday life. 2. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. There comes a moment in life when you realize that wanting alone has never been enough. You can want peace while carrying anger in your chest. You can want abundance while waking each day wrapped in fear. You can want love while quietly believing you are unworthy of it. The universe does not listen to the words we speak with our lips. It listens to the song we carry in our bones. What you are radiating in every moment, your real emotional climate, the energy you live in, day by day. That is what life reflects back to you. Wanting belongs to the mind. The mind is good at listing desires, good at imagining what life could look like if only things were different. But the universe responds to something deeper than imagination. It responds to essence. It is not fooled by declarations that come from the lips while the heart is still restless. It listens to the vibration of who you are being right now. I know this truth, not because I read it in a book, but because I lived the opposite for many years. I spent nights writing down affirmations, repeating them until my throat grew tired. But all the while my body carried the tightness of fear. I hoped to convince life with words, while my energy was still whispering lack. And life, like a faithful mirror, simply reflected that lack back to me. Nothing changed until I understood. Wanting is noise. Being is the signal. Think of it like planting seeds. You may want a rose garden, but if you keep planting thorns, the soil will give you only what you have sown. In the same way, your state of being is the seed you plant into the field of possibility. If you plant fear, you harvest fear. If you plant love, you harvest love. The universe is not punishing. It is simply consistent. It mirrors what you embody, not what you daydream about. There is something freeing about this once you let it in, because it means you no longer have to wait for external conditions to grant you permission to feel the way you long to feel. You don't have to wait for money to arrive before you feel secure. You don't have to wait for a partner to appear before you feel worthy of love. You can step into those feelings now, not as a trick, not as wishful thinking, but as a choice to align your inner world with the life you truly want to live. The work is quiet. It looks less like chasing and more like softening. It looks like catching yourself in a moment of fear and saying, "What would peace feel like right now?" It looks like noticing scarcity in your thoughts and gently shifting toward gratitude, even for the smallest thing: a roof overhead, a breath that still fills your lungs. These shifts may seem minor, but they are profound. They change the atmosphere you live in, and that atmosphere is what the universe responds to. You see, the field around us doesn't know how to respond to wanting. Wanting is a signal of absence, a declaration that something is missing. If that is the vibration you carry, then life faithfully reflects back more absence, more longing, more chasing. But when you embody wholeness, even in small ways, life responds with more wholeness. When you feel love in your chest, even without a partner to direct it toward, love finds its way back to you. When you live as though you are already safe, opportunities and support arrive to match that safety. And so the question shifts. It is no longer what do I want, but who am I being? That one question holds the key to everything. Because you cannot escape the reflection of yourself, life will always meet you as you are. I say this with tenderness, because I know how hard it is to hear when you are struggling. I know what it feels like to want desperately for life to change, and to feel powerless when it doesn't. But there is hope here too. Because if reality reflects what you are, then you hold the power to shift it from within, change your state, and reality begins to bend. Not overnight, not always in the ways you expect, but inevitably, faithfully, like a mirror, waiting for a new expression. So pause for a moment. Notice what you are being right now. Is it fear? Or is it peace? Is it scarcity? Or is it trust? Is it lack? Or is it gratitude? Because that is the signal you are broadcasting into the field. That is the seed you are planting into the soil of possibility. And sooner or later, It will grow. 3. Your relationship with time. Most of us are raised to believe that time is a straight line, past behind us, future ahead, and the present as a tiny dot we must endure until things finally change. We think life is a matter of waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right proof that things have shifted. And so, we spend years in anticipation, holding our breath for tomorrow, to deliver what today seems to withhold. But here is the quiet truth. Time does not work the way we've been taught. In the quantum view, the future is not distant. The past is not fixed. And the present is far more powerful than we realize. I learned this lesson not in theory, but in living. There were days when I carried old wounds like heavy stones. Convinced they defined me, my past seemed carved into my skin, impossible to erase. But then, in moments of deep presence, something miraculous would happen. I would feel those old wounds soften, as if the pain no longer belonged to me. It was as though the present moment reached backward, offering healing to a version of me that had once felt broken. That is the mystery of time. It is not rigid. The present can touch the past, and the future can whisper into the now. Quantum physics calls this non-linear time. Mystics simply call it wholeness. When you step into coherence, you begin to notice that your future self, the version of you who is already free, already abundant, already at peace, can reach back and guide you today. It is not fantasy, it is resonance. By embodying the feelings of your future now, you allow that version to shape your choices, calm your fears, and accelerate your path. Think of it like a river. On the surface, it appears to flow in one direction, but beneath, currents swirl, weaving forward and backward, touching every part of the water at once. Time works in much the same way. While our clocks tick in a straight line, consciousness moves in all directions. The regret you carry from yesterday can dissolve in a breath of presence today. The dream you imagine for tomorrow can send its light into this very moment. Past, present, and future are not enemies. They are threads of the same fabric, waiting to be woven together. When you bring these threads into harmony, something extraordinary happens. You stop feeling torn between who you were, who you are, and who you might become. Instead, you step into what I can only describe as a vortex, a concentrated field where possibilities accelerate. This is why some changes feel sudden, like leaps across years of struggle in the blink of an eye. It is not that the universe finally allowed it after endless waiting. It is that you aligned with the version of yourself where it was already true, and time collapsed around that alignment. I know how tempting it is to think healing takes years, or that success must arrive slowly, step by step. But what if those ideas are only agreements we've made with linear time? What if the truth is that the moment you decide to embody peace, peace already begins to ripple backward and forward, rewriting the story of your life? What if the future self you long for is not waiting years away, but is standing just outside your awareness, calling you to remember? This is the invitation to live as though you are not bound by the clock, to see each breath as a bridge, connecting past wounds, present choices, and future possibilities into a single field of coherence. It does not mean ignoring time. It means stepping into a deeper relationship with it. A relationship where you no longer wait to be whole, no longer drag the past like an anchor, but instead stand in the center of the vortex, letting every version of you find harmony. And when you taste this, even for a moment, something shifts. The regret softens, the waiting ends, you feel guided, held, accelerated, not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned. And in that alignment, time itself becomes your ally. 4. The quantum mirror effect. There's a kind of honesty in life that cannot be escaped. It shows up in every relationship, every opportunity, every setback, every blessing. It's the honesty of reflection, the simple truth that the world does not give you what you demand. It gives you what you are willing to believe about yourself. If you love yourself with conditions, only when you succeed, only when you meet some imagined standard, then love will arrive carrying the same conditions. If you value yourself halfway, opportunities will meet you halfway. The universe never lies. It only mirrors the way you have chosen to see yourself. This can feel harsh at first, especially if you've known rejection, disappointment, or long seasons of doubt. It's easy to think life is unfair, that it hands abundance to some and struggle to others without reason. But if you slow down, if you sit with your own experience, you begin to see the deeper pattern. Life has always been showing you the story you'd tell about yourself. When you felt unworthy, you were met with people who overlooked you. When you believed in your strength, doors opened in ways you couldn't have planned. The mirror does not judge. It reflects. I remember years when I was desperate to be loved, but inside I carried the belief that I wasn't enough. And so, no matter how much affection someone offered, I always doubted it, always sabotaged it, always found proof that it wasn't real. Looking back, I see it clearly now. The universe was not withholding love. It was showing me the distortion in the way I loved myself. The mirror was faithful. Even when the reflection was painful, the beauty of this principle is that it puts the power back in your hands. Because if life mirrors your relationship with yourself, then every change begins within. When you soften into self-acceptance, when you stop waiting to earn your worth and begin treating yourself with the respect you've always longed for, the world begins to mirror that shift. People respond differently. Opportunities feel wider. Even challenges seem less like punishments and more like teachers guiding you back to your own truth. It's like standing before a literal mirror. If you want to see a smile, you cannot wait for the glass to grin first. You must smile, and then the reflection follows. In the same way, if you want unconditional love, you must offer it to yourself first. If you want freedom, you must stop chaining your heart to old judgments. If you want abundance, you must stop starving your own soul with stories of lack. The mirror cannot lie. It will always show you back to yourself. What's remarkable is how subtle this shift can be. You don't need to wake up tomorrow with perfect confidence or flawless self-love. Even the smallest gesture, to a kind word to yourself when you fall short, a moment of forgiveness when you repeat an old mistake, sends ripples into the field, and the field, attentive and responsive, begins to reflect those ripples back. The more you practice kindness within, the more life shows up kindly around you. This is why true change often feels like coming home rather than reaching outward, because the mirror effect reveals that the love, the value, the worthiness you've been chasing was never outside. It was always about how you were willing to hold yourself. The external was just the echo. So the question becomes less about what you want from the world and more about how you are willing to treat yourself. Do you speak to yourself with the same gentleness you'd offer a child? Do you honor your own boundaries the way you honor others? Do you allow yourself to rest without guilt, to dream without shame, to fail without self-cruelty? These choices are not small. They are the brushstrokes painting the reflection you will meet tomorrow. In the end, the quantum mirror is not here to punish you. It is here to guide you. It shows you, with unflinching honesty, where you have abandoned yourself and where you have embraced yourself. And the moment you choose to change the way you look at you, the world cannot help but change its reflection. 5. Facing resistance. There comes a point on every inner journey when the light you long for collides with the shadows you've carried for years. Fear rises. Doubt whispers. Disappointment lingers like a weight in your chest. For most of my life, I treated these feelings as enemies. I thought if I could just banish them, push harder, pray louder, deny their presence, Then maybe I would finally break free. But what I eventually discovered is something simple, and at the same time, profoundly difficult. Resistance is not a wall to tear down. It is a doorway, and every doorway requires you to stop, to acknowledge it, and to walk through with presence. Fear is not proof that you're failing. It is proof that you are growing, because only when you step towards something new does fear appear. Doubt is not a verdict against you. It is the nervous system's way of asking, can I trust this new path? Disappointment, too, is not an eternal sentence but an echo of old expectations. These emotions are not punishments, they are invitations. Invitations to hold yourself more gently, to expand your capacity to feel, to show your own body and mind that you can exist in the tension between the old and the new without breaking. Think of resistance as the trembling of a bridge when you first step onto it. The shaking does not mean the bridge will collapse. It means it is carrying weight, adjusting, stretching to support you. In the same way, when you face fear or doubt, your whole being is stretching to hold a reality it has not yet grown comfortable with. And in that stretch, transformation begins. I remember nights when I sat in silence, heart pounding, mind racing, with every reason I could fail. In the past, I would have run from those feelings, distracted myself, numbed myself, forced a smile until the moment passed. But when I finally chose to sit with them, something remarkable happened. The fear lost its edge. The doubts softened. I began to realize that what I had been running from was not a monster, but a messenger. Resistance was not there to destroy me. It was there to reveal how much space I could hold. In the language of quantum consciousness, this is called superposition. The ability to hold two states at once, to feel fear and courage together, to sense doubt and trust in the same breath, to acknowledge disappointment and still allow hope to bloom. This balance is not weakness. It is mastery. It shows your nervous system that you are safe enough, strong enough, present enough to carry both the old patterns and the emerging new self until the transition is complete. There is healing in refusing to run away, because every time you sit quietly with resistance, you build resilience. Every time you breathe through fear instead of silencing it, you teach your body that it no longer has to live in fight or flight. And gradually, resistance shifts from being an enemy to being a guidepost, marking the exact places where your growth is unfolding. Life is not asking you to be fearless. It is asking you to be present with fear. It is not asking you to erase doubt. It is asking you to walk with it until trust grows stronger. Disappointment does not mean you are broken. It means you dared to hope. And now you are invited to hope again, but with deeper wisdom, so the next time resistance rises, try not to see it as a sign to stop, but as proof that you are moving forward. Sit with it, breathe into it, let it tremble within you, without rushing to push it away. And notice what happens. The longer you hold space for it, the less power it has over you. You realize you are larger than fear, steadier than doubt, stronger than disappointment. You are the bridge, not the trembling. In that moment, you step into true alignment, not by escaping resistance, but by embracing it. And the universe, faithful, as always, reflects that mastery back to you. 6. Silence as the language of the universe. There is a kind of noise that follows us everywhere. Not the sound of traffic or voices, but the constant chatter of the mind. It fills our days with worry, planning, second-guessing, remembering, projecting, and while it feels familiar, almost normal, this noise is what keeps the signal of our true being from coming through. Imagine trying to hear a single violin in a room where every instrument is playing at once. That is what life feels like when our inner world is dominated by endless thought. The signal is drowned in static, but when you allow yourself to become still, even for a few breaths, something extraordinary happens. silence appears. And silence, I've come to understand, is the purest language of the universe. I used to think silence was empty, that it was nothing more than the absence of sound. But silence, when you touch it deeply, is not empty at all. It is full. It holds weight, presence, clarity. It's like stepping out of a storm into a clear night sky. You realize the stars were always there, hidden only by the noise. Silence is not a lack of something. It is the presence of everything. In that space, life begins to speak to you in ways the busy mind could never catch. When you fall into true silence, you notice the quality of your being shifts. The heart slows, the breath deepens, the nervous system finally relaxes, as if it too remembers that not every moment has to be survived, defended, or planned. And in that ease, your frequency becomes coherent, clear. This is when the universe can hear you most. Not in the frantic repetition of affirmations, not in the desperate begging for things to change, but in the quiet alignment of your whole being saying, "Here I am ready." I've known dark nights when the silence felt unbearable. Nights when the noise of my thoughts was the only company I had. And the idea of sitting in stillness seemed terrifying. Because silence has a way of showing you what you've been avoiding. The grief you buried. The fears you denied. The truth you kept postponing. Yet when you stay with it, when you stop running, you find that silence is not your enemy. It is your healer. It does not bring you pain. It reveals the pain that was already there. And in revealing it, it begins to dissolve it. Think of silence as the soil in which all seeds grow. Without it, nothing has space to take root. Our desire, our intentions, even our prayers, they need the stillness of silence to be heard, to sink deep enough into the field to sprout. Noise scatters energy. Silence gathers it. And when it gathers, it becomes powerful. That is why so many spiritual teachers and scientists alike remind us of meditation, of breath, of quiet presence. It is not to escape the world, but to align with it, to let our signal rise above the static. In silence, you also begin to hear the subtler voice of the universe. It does not speak in sentences. It speaks in nudges, in a sudden peace that arrives for no reason, in a gentle knowing that comes before thought. It is the kind of guidance that feels less like being told and more like remembering something you already knew. And the more time you spend in silence, the clearer that voice becomes. So perhaps the real practice is not about doing more, but about allowing yourself to do less, to turn off the constant chase for answers long enough to let the deeper answer find you, to stop filling every empty space with noise, and instead, trust that in the empty space, life itself is speaking. When you begin to trust silence, you discover it is not fragile. It is strong, steady, unwavering, and you realize the universe was never ignoring you. It was simply waiting for the moment you became quiet enough to hear. 7. Returning to your essence. For so much of life, we are taught to add achievements, add possessions, add new versions of ourselves, until, hopefully, one of them feels worthy enough to be loved, to be accepted, to be seen. We carry layers upon layers, titles, masks, roles, believing they make us stronger, more impressive, more magnetic. And yet, the deeper I've gone into this journey, the more I've realized that manifestation has never been about adding more. It is about stripping away. It is about peeling back every false layer until what remains is the essence you were born with. That essence is not fragile. It is not incomplete. It is the original frequency that you carried into this world. The part of you that knew joy without reason, curiosity without fear, and love without condition. A baby does not need to prove its worth before being held. It does not need to accomplish or perform. Its very presence is enough. That is essence. That is the vibration we are invited to return to. But life, with all its noise, teaches us otherwise. Somewhere along the way, we are told we must earn love. We are told success must be proven through endless effort. We are told our natural being is not enough. And so we begin to cover it with masks, trying harder, pretending stronger, hiding deeper. And though these masks may help us survive, they also bury the very magnetism we are seeking. We forget that the power to draw life toward us was never in the mask. It was always in the essence beneath. When I finally began to let go of proving myself, something shifted. I noticed how much of my energy had been spent on pretending to be confident when I was scared, pretending to be satisfied when I was empty, pretending to be strong when I felt fragile. The moment I began to release those pretenses, I felt lighter, not because life outside had suddenly changed, but because I was no longer fighting myself. That is what returning to essence feels like, a deep exhale after years of holding your breath. The truth is, when you return to your essence, you don't have to chase attraction. You become attraction. The universe is drawn to authenticity, the same way we are drawn to the warmth of a genuine smile. It recognizes coherence, and coherence is not created by effort. It is revealed when you stop resisting who you are. This is why manifestation is not about pushing, but about allowing, not about proving, but about remembering. Think of a magnet. It does not strain to pull objects toward itself. Its pull is natural, effortless, because it is true to its nature. You are the same. When you are aligned with your essence, when you stop covering it with layers of fear or performance, your life begins to shift without the constant struggle. People notice something different in you, though they cannot explain it. Opportunities feel drawn to you, almost by accident, but it is not accident. It is essence. This return does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly, gently, in the small choices of every day. Choosing to rest instead of proving your worth. Choosing to speak honestly instead of performing. Choosing to forgive yourself instead of carrying guilt. Every choice peels away another layer until the radiant core of your being shines through again. And the beauty is, your essence has never left you. Even in your darkest seasons, even under the heaviest masks, it has been waiting quietly, like an ember that refuses to go out. You do not have to create it. You only have to uncover it. So if you are tired of striving, of pushing, of endlessly proving, take this as a gentle reminder. You do not need to add another layer. You do not need to work harder to be magnetic. Your power does not come from effort. It comes from essence, and the moment you return to it, the moment you trust that your natural frequency is enough, life responds. Not because you forced it, but because you finally remembered who you already are. 8. The difference between imagination and embodiment. There is a quiet truth I learned after years of hoping and wishing for life to change. You can imagine a brighter future for the rest of your days. But if you never embody it, it will remain only a dream. Imagination is powerful. It plants seeds. It awakens desire. It shows us what is possible. But imagination alone is not enough. Without embodiment, those seeds never take root in the soil of reality. They remain suspended in the mind, like pictures pinned on a wall, beautiful to look at, but never lived. Neville Goddard often spoke of living in the end, of dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled. And what he meant was simple, yet so often misunderstood. He did not say to pretend or to trick yourself into believing. He meant to wear the new identity as naturally as you wear your own skin, like putting on a well-fitted coat, not for a performance, but because it belongs to you. That is embodiment. It is not thinking about who you might be one day, but living as though that version already breathes within you. I used to spend hours imagining a life of peace and freedom. I would close my eyes, picture it in detail, and yet when I opened them, I carried the same anxious rhythm in my chest. the same old patterns in my days. I was imagining without embodying, and so the future remained a picture, never a place I could step into. The turning point came when I realized that embodiment does not wait for circumstances to change. It asks me to change my stance toward life now, to rise from my chair as though I already trusted the path, to speak with the calm of someone who already knows they are supported, to let my body remember what my mind was struggling to believe. Embodiment is not about forcing yourself into denial. It is about allowing your nervous system to feel safe in a new state of being. You don't have to fake it until you make it. That still carries the energy of pretending. Instead, you breathe into the new identity slowly, gently, until it no longer feels foreign. You let gratitude fill your mornings as if the dream were already real. You let peace guide your choices as if there were no need to chase life. And with time, your cells, your heart, your entire presence begin to recognize this as the new normal. Think of a stage actor. To truly convince an audience, they don't just recite lines. They inhabit the role, their posture, their tone, even the silence between words reflects the character they have become. In the same way, life responds not to the lines you repeat in your head, but to the role you are inhabiting in every moment. If you are embodying lack while imagining abundance, the mirror of the universe will reflect lack. But if you embody abundance, even in small gestures, sharing kindness, practicing gratitude, walking with a lighter step, the field aligns itself with that state. The difference between imagination and embodiment is the difference between wishing and becoming. Imagination is the sketch. Embodiment is the living painting. Imagination shows you the doorway. Embodiment is the act of walking through it. And once you step through, the world does not need convincing. It naturally rearranges to reflect who you are being. So ask yourself, gently, am I only imagining, or am I embodying? Do I picture a future self with calm and joy, yet still carry anxiety in every step? Or am I allowing myself to breathe like that future self now? Even in small ways, the shift may be subtle, but it is everything. Because when you begin to embody, life can no longer keep the dream at a distance. It must respond. And perhaps this is the greatest liberation, realizing you don't have to wait. The future you've been dreaming of is not waiting years ahead. It is waiting in the way you choose to sit, breathe, and walk in this very moment. Imagination opens the door, but embodiment is what makes the dream your reality. 9. The origin of reality. There is a quiet mystery at the heart of life that most of us overlook. We are taught to believe that reality is something fixed, solid, unchangeable, a wall we must push against until it finally gives way. But the deeper I've gone into my own journey, the more I've come to see that reality is not a wall at all. It is more like a field, vast, fluid, alive with possibility. And within this quantum field, every version of you already exists. The abundant one, the peaceful one, the confident one, the free one. They are not faraway dreams. They are present here and now, waiting for you to align with them. It's almost impossible for the mind to grasp at first. We've been told all our lives that becoming is a matter of climbing, of earning, and of struggling up a long hill until we finally arrive at the summit. But in the quantum view, there is no summit to reach. There are only versions of you already standing at different peaks. The question is not whether you will create them, but whether you will tune yourself to the frequency of the one you wish to live. I remember times in my life when I desperately wanted freedom. Freedom from worry, from scarcity, from the weight of the past. I thought I had to fight my way there. But the more I fought, the further it seemed. Only when I began to soften, to embody peace before the circumstances changed, did I notice something subtle, yet powerful. Life around me started to reorganize. The people I met, the opportunities that appeared, even the way my body felt. All of it began to shift, as if reality itself was responding to the signal I carried. That is the truth of this field. It doesn't wait for you to struggle hard enough. It mirrors the state you decide to live in now. Think of the field like a great orchestra. Every possible song is already written. Every melody exists in potential, but the music that fills the air depends on which instrument you choose to play. If you pick up the strings of fear, the song will carry tension. If you play the notes of gratitude, the sound will be expansive and warm. The orchestra does not argue with you. It simply joins in harmony with whatever you are playing. This is why alignment is not about effort, but about coherence. When your thoughts, your emotions, and your body are singing the same song, you become a match to the version of reality that already carries that melody. The wealthy you, the healed you, the joyful you, they are not built from scratch. They are chosen, selected by the state you decide to embody. It can feel strange at first, even unnatural, to live as though the version you desire already exists. The mind will insist, but I don't see it yet. Nothing has changed. Yet the truth is that everything begins in the unseen. Just as a seed contains the tree before the branches appear, your chosen state contains the reality before the evidence arrives. The moment you shift your inner frequency, the field begins its quiet reordering. The future you long for has no choice but to meet you, because you have already stepped into it. There is great comfort in knowing this. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to bend reality into shape. You don't have to chase endlessly for proof. You only have to choose, again and again, who you are willing to be in this moment. And as you do, reality unfolds to meet that choice. So pause and consider, which version of you are you living today? The one who fears, or the one who trusts? The one who doubts, or the one who remembers? Both exist in the field, waiting. And whichever one you embody is the one the universe will faithfully reflect. The origin of reality is not outside you. It begins in the frequency you carry, the state you inhabit, the essence you embody. The field is not withholding anything. It is simply waiting for you to align. 10. Practicing emotional flow. There is a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you stop waiting for proof before you allow yourself to feel. Most of us live by conditions. We promise ourselves that once the money comes, then we'll feel secure. Once love arrives, then we'll feel worthy. Once the breakthrough happens, then we'll finally breathe with ease. But life in the quantum field does not operate by conditions. It responds to the signal you send now, not the one you hope to send later. And that signal is carried not by your words or your plans, but by your emotions. Emotional flow is the art of letting gratitude, trust, and openness move through you before there's any reason on paper to justify them. It is about thanking life in advance, not as a performance, but as a declaration of who you are choosing to be. Gratitude before the harvest is not fantasy. It is coherence. It tells the universe, this is already true within me. I no longer need proof to believe. And in that moment, you become a clear signal, a lighthouse shining steadily in the field. I remember years when I waited for evidence before daring to feel. I wanted the new job, the healed relationship, the sense of security, before I gave myself permission to relax. But all that waiting kept me in a loop, because the longer I postponed joy, the longer life reflected postponement back to me. Only when I began to feel gratitude for the smallest shifts, quiet mornings of peace, unexpected kindness from a stranger, the resilience I carried despite the pain, did something unlock. My emotions began to flow instead of stagnate, and the world began to respond differently. Emotional flow is not about denying hardship. It is not pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It is about allowing yourself to feel the frequency of your future self, even while standing in the middle of present challenges. It's holding gratitude and uncertainty together, trust and fear in the same breath. and letting your body learn that both can exist without canceling each other out. This is the kind of strength that softens you, not hardens you. Think of a lighthouse on a stormy coast. The waves may crash violently against the rocks, but the light does not flicker with every wave. It remains steady, a signal of guidance for those who need it. When you practice emotional flow, when you allow gratitude to shine before the outcome, when you acknowledge the shift before the evidence, when you follow intuition, even when logic resists, you become that lighthouse. The storms may not disappear overnight, but your light is no longer dictated by them. And slowly, inevitably, the seas begin to calm. This practice requires trust, not in some distant outcome, but in your ability to hold the state of being that calls it forth. It requires you to trust the wisdom of your intuition. Even when reason argues, there were times when every rational part of me said, "It won't work. It's impossible." Yet something deeper whispered, "Go anyway. Trust anyway. Believe anyway." Each time I chose the whisper over the doubt, I felt the field reorganize itself around me in ways I could never have planned. The truth is, your emotions are the language the universe listens to most closely. You can write endless affirmations. You can set detailed goals. But if your emotional state remains stuck in fear or scarcity, the field reflects that back faithfully. When you let gratitude flow now, when you let love move through you now, when you allow peace to settle in your chest now, you shift the entire equation. You no longer broadcast lack. You broadcast wholeness. So the invitation is simple, though not always easy. Don't wait. Don't wait for the evidence before you feel. Don't postpone joy until the conditions are perfect. Begin to practice emotional flow here, in the middle of your imperfect, messy, beautiful life. Because the moment you do, you stop being a seeker and become a signal. And the field, unwavering and alive, always responds to the clearest signal. 11. Quantum entanglement and connection. One of the most humbling truths I've come to understand is that nothing in this universe moves alone. Every thought, every feeling, every quiet intention is not just contained within you. It ripples outward, touching threads of reality you cannot see. And when you truly align with a version of life you long for, something remarkable happens, that life begins to move toward you as well. It's not a chase. It's not a disparity grasp. It's an entanglement, a bond across time and space that brings you into contact with the people, places, and moments that seem almost too perfectly timed to be coincidence. I've lived enough years to know that what we call coincidence often carries more truth than chance. The right conversation falling into your lap, the unexpected call from someone you were just thinking of, the opportunity that arrives in the exact week you decided to trust yourself again. These are not accidents. They are the evidence of alignment, the universe showing you that the signal you've been transmitting has been heard. Quantum physics calls this entanglement, the idea that once two particles connect, no matter how far they drift, they remain linked. What happens to one immediately affects the other. The same principle applies to our lives. When you authentically connect with your desired reality, not just in thought, but in vibration, you become entangled with it. And from that moment, it begins moving toward you just as much as you are moving toward it. There were seasons in my life when I felt utterly alone, convinced that no one could hear the silent prayers in my heart. But looking back, I see how life was weaving connections long before I recognized them. The friend who showed up just when I needed encouragement, the stranger who opened a door to an opportunity I could never have engineered, the series of small, unplanned events that led me exactly where I needed to be. That is entanglement. It is the field's way of reminding us that nothing we desire deeply is separate from us. The beauty of this is that you don't have to force the timing. You don't have to manipulate or control every detail. The moment you live in coherence with your desired reality, the field begins organizing itself around you. People who are entangled with that version of your life start crossing your path. Events rearrange. Resources flow in ways that seem impossible if you were trying to plan them with logic alone. It's as if life itself becomes a collaborator, gently moving pieces into place while you continue to hold the state within peace. Of course, the mind often resists this. It wants guarantees, schedules, proof before belief. But entanglement doesn't show up on a clock. It shows up in presence. The more you embody the state of your future self, the more you notice the so-called coincidences multiplying. The timing feels uncanny. The synchronicities undeniable, and each one is like a soft nod from the universe saying, "Keep going. You are on the path." Think of it like tuning into a song on the radio. The moment you find the right frequency, the music streams in effortlessly. You don't need to hunt the musicians down or demand they play louder. You simply tune in, and the song finds you. In the same way, when you tune yourself to the frequency of your desired life, you don't need to chase it. It begins to seek you, weaving its way into your days, in ways that feel both mysterious and deeply natural. So if you've ever wondered whether you're truly connected, pay attention to the patterns. Notice the alignments that make you pause, the doors that open without struggle, the people who arrive carrying exactly the wisdom you needed to hear. These are not random. They are reminders that the universe is responsive, alive, and listening. The truth is, you are never creating from isolation. You are always in relationship, with yourself, with others, with the field itself. And every time you step into alignment, you strengthen those invisible bonds. You become less of a seeker and more of a participant in a great choreography that extends beyond what the eye can see. Entanglement teaches us that manifestation is not about begging life to deliver. It is about becoming so coherent within yourself that life cannot help but find you. And when it does, it often arrives not with thunder, but with a quiet grace, a meeting, a moment, a so-called coincidence that leaves you whispering, "Of course, this was always meant for me." 12. The present frequency shapes both past and future. We are taught to think of time as a straight road, yesterday behind us, tomorrow ahead, and today as the narrow strip of ground we stand on. It feels rigid, like what is done, and what hasn't yet arrived is out of reach. But life has shown me a gentler, more mysterious truth. The state you embody right now does not just shape the road ahead. It can also change the way you carry the road behind you. A shift in frequency today ripples forward into tomorrow. Yes, but it also ripples backward, softening the weight of what once felt carved in stone. I know this because I've lived long enough to carry regrets, memories that once felt heavy, moments I thought defined me forever. For years, I believed those memories would always haunt me, unchanged, fixed in the past. But as I began to heal, slowly, imperfectly, something remarkable happened. The memories themselves began to feel different. What once was a wound became a lesson. What once was shame became compassion. I realized I was not only changing my future, I was rewriting the way I held my past. Quantum physics has a word for this retrocausality, the idea that the present can influence both directions of time, but you don't need a textbook to understand it. You can feel it every time. Forgiveness lightens the memory of betrayal. You can feel it every time gratitude reframes what once felt like loss. Healing in the present is not just about where you are going. It's about how the story behind you is remembered, reinterpreted, and released. The truth is, our past is not a fixed picture hanging on a wall. It is more like a book whose meaning depends on the eyes that read it. And when your frequency changes today, when you live with greater peace, gratitude, or love, you become a new reader of that same book. The words may not change, but the meaning does. Suddenly, what once seemed like punishment reveals itself as preparation. What once looked like abandonment reveals itself as redirection. The past is not altered, but it is transformed in the way it lives inside you. And then, of course, there is the future. Most of us think we are walking toward it step by step, powerless until it arrives. But the reality is that your future is not waiting years away. It is woven into the frequency you embody now. When you align with the version of yourself that is free, peaceful, and whole, you begin to collapse the time it would normally take. Opportunities appear faster. Healing accelerates. What might have taken decades to unfold suddenly becomes possible in a season. It is not that time has been broken. It is that coherence has brought past, present, and future into harmony. Think of it like tuning an instrument. If the strings are loose, the song sounds chaotic, no matter how skillful the musician. But when you tighten them into harmony, the same instrument produces beauty instantly. In the same way, when your present frequency aligns for your life, past, present, and future plays in a single song, the discord of regret, fear, and longing begins to dissolve into something coherent, something whole. I have seen this in my own journey. The moment I began to live as though I already trusted life, as though I already belonged, not only did my tomorrows feel lighter, but my yesterdays began to soften as well. It was as if the pain I once carried was no longer wasted. It was folded into the story of who I was becoming. And that realization alone healed parts of me I thought would never find peace. So if you feel haunted by the past or anxious about the future, remember this. The point of power is always now. This breath, this choice, this frequency. The shift you make today doesn't just shape what's ahead. It reshapes the meaning of what's behind and clears the path for what is to come. In the end, time is not your enemy. It is your canvas. And the colors you use in this present moment reach both forward and backward, painting not only tomorrow's sunrise, but yesterday's shadows as well. 13. The collective influence. One of the most beautiful realizations on this path is that manifestation is never just about you. It begins with you. Yes, with your healing, your alignment, your frequency, but it never ends there. Every shift you make within yourself ripples outward, touching lives you may never even meet. You are not an isolated being moving through a silent universe. You are part of a living field, a vast web of consciousness where every thought, every breath, every act of courage or kindness becomes a signal that others can feel. I've seen this truth in the smallest of ways. There were times when I walked into a room carrying the weight of fear, and without saying a word, the people around me seemed uneasy. My state spoke louder than my voice. And there were other times when I entered with peace in my chest. And suddenly, conversations softened, tensions eased, laughter flowed more freely. That is the collective influence in action. Your frequency is not contained within your skin. It extends, like light spilling beyond a candle, reaching into the space around you. When you choose to shift your frequency, you're not just changing your private reality. You're offering a resonance that gives others permission to change as well. A person who has forgotten their worth may sense your quiet confidence and remember something in themselves. Someone lost in fear may feel steadier simply by standing near your calm. A stranger you'll never speak to may carry a lighter heart because of the smile you allowed yourself to share. These are not small things. They are threads weaving into the greater fabric of human consciousness. Think of a tuning fork. Strike one, and another nearby begins to vibrate in harmony without being touched. In the same way, when you live in coherence, you become a tuning fork for others. Your state of being calls out to the same frequency in them, awakening it gently, reminding them of the truth they had buried. You don't have to preach. You don't have to convince. Your being itself does the work. I used to think that changing the world meant striving on a grand scale, making loud gestures, gathering masses. But what I've learned is that the most profound changes often begin quietly, in one heart at a time. A healed person becomes a presence of healing. A peaceful person becomes a shelter for others. And little by little, these shifts create momentum until the collective itself begins to rise. This is why your personal manifestation matters far beyond your own life. When you release scarcity and embody abundance, you contribute to a field where abundance feels more possible for everyone. When you forgive your past and live from compassion, you contribute to a field where compassion feels more accessible. When you carry peace, you plant peace in the soil of human consciousness. Every shift within you is a gift to the whole. And perhaps the most humbling part is this: you may never see the full extent of your impact. You may never know how your presence steadied a friend, how your kindness softened a stranger, how your quiet trust rippled into someone else's courage. But the field remembers. The universe records every vibration, and nothing is wasted. So as you continue this journey, know that you are not walking it alone. Every moment, you align with your essence. You are strengthening the web that connects us all. You are reminding others, sometimes without a word, that they too can remember their power, that they too can live from wholeness. Manifestation is not selfish. It is service. It is your way of lifting not only your own life, but also the collective frequency of humanity. And when enough of us shift, the world itself changes, not through force, but through resonance, coming home to what you already are. Manifestation has been so misunderstood. For years, I thought of it as a negotiation with the universe, a way of convincing life to give me what I wanted, if only I said the right words or worked hard enough to earn its favor. But time, experience, and quiet reflection taught me otherwise. Manifestation is not persuasion. It is not begging. It is not a desperate attempt to win the universe's approval. It is the art of alignment, the gentle act of living in step with the version of yourself that already exists in the quantum field. When you stop straining for proof, something softens. When you stop pleading for change and instead allow yourself to become the change, life begins to move differently. The irony is that it happens not through pushing, but through listening, not through noise, but through stillness. You are no longer the seeker, endlessly chasing after what feels out of reach. You become the place reality is drawn to, the steady center that the pieces of your life reorganize around. This realization doesn't arrive like thunder. It comes quietly, in the smallest of moments, in the way you allow yourself to smile even before the problem is solved, in the way you pause in silence and feel peace without needing a reason, in the way you stop performing for the world and start living from your essence. Each of these moments is more than a personal victory. They are gifts to the whole of humanity. Because when you align, you don't just shift your own life. You send ripples through the collective field, making it easier for others to remember their own power. 2. The truth is, you don't need to chase evidence. You are the evidence, your presence, your frequency, for your way of inhabiting this moment. That is the proof that alignment is real. The mirror of the universe reflects not your words, not your wants, but your being. And when your being is whole, coherent, at peace, the reflection becomes whole, coherent, at peace. I have walked through shadows long enough to know this isn't about perfection. There will be days when fear returns, when doubt feels heavy, when the old self whispers again. But even then, alignment is not lost. It is remembered in the pause between breaths, in the willingness to return again and again to the essence beneath the noise. That essence never left you. It has been here from the beginning, waiting patiently for you to notice. So if you take nothing else from this journey, take this. Manifestation is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to yourself, the self that is already free, already abundant, already whole. When you embody that truth, you stop running, you stop searching, and you discover that what you were looking for has been looking for you all along. Each small smile, each moment of gratitude, each quiet surrender is more than just a personal act. It is a thread in the great fabric of humanity's awakening. When you live from your essence, you give permission for others to do the same. That is the gift. That is the legacy. So breathe deeply. Trust the silence. Let your life be less about convincing and more about remembering. Because in the end, the greatest manifestation is not something you acquire. It is who you allow yourself to be.